Well, we dodged Black Wednesday in WWE, at least for now. But that doesn't mean that big news didn't go down this week. Backlash is right around the corner. WWE is not the only game in town, though. News all over the wrestling world. We're going to do our best to cover it all on this edition of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. The bomb drops now.
All you friendly, nice, and amazing.
Oh, hi everyone. We love you so much.
You guys are the best.
It's TSF.
Was
Is
it
it
real?
100 or not?
Oh my god.
And you're listening to the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, baby.
Hello and welcome to this edition of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, a show that is for the fans, by the fans. I'm your phenomenal host, Mr. Podcasting, Chris Belchar, back from vacation, sore feet and all, the young buck, Mr. Andy York. Word of advice to all you listening and watching, don't wear Hey Dudes to Disney World.
Don't wear Hey Dude sneakers to Disney World. No. About 5 hours in, 3 blisters on my feet, and
I'm
that was the
surprised
first day.
I'm surprised it took 5 hours.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It was rough. It was very rough. And then we always do Epcot first.
Yeah.
We do Epcot, then we do Hollywood Studios. This time we didn't do Animal Kingdom. It was like Epcot, Hollywood Studios, then Magic Kingdom.
Okay.
I love Hollywood Studios. It's probably my favorite park.
Yep.
I've never had a great day at Hollywood Studios because I'm always so tired from Epcot the day before. So we've learned I'm old now, and we have to take breaks in between each day so we can enjoy the whole thing together even more.
Interesting. Well, Epcot is my least favorite park, so I would do it first just to get it out of the way.
Yeah.
So, but
See,
that's just me.
The new Guardians ride makes Epcot so much.
I forgot
so
that.
worth
I
it.
forgot that was at Epcot.
So worth
That's
it.
right.
And Tron is very good too. But
Oh yeah.
I
They
got to ride Tron.
were building Tron when
it opened like
there,
2 weeks ago.
Oh, nice.
So
Very cool.
yeah.
For more coverage on Andy's vacation, follow him on social
Sure,
media.
I'll post on
Follow him on social media at at Andy_PBWP. The show is at PBW Podcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Make sure you're following along. Subscribe wherever you find your podcast, and also support our friends over at WrestleBuddy, BodySlam.net, and SportsWire. Thanks very much. While you were on vacation, Tyler Peters stepping in as our co-host last week. He did a fantastic job.
Receipts are coming.
Receipts are coming. Yes, you're welcome. Speaking of Tyler, quick plug for the PBWF, the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Federation, our fantasy booking show, available on another feed. If you like fantasy booking, please go check it out. Most of you apparently do, because we are seeing a huge uptick in our PBWF numbers for season 2.
Yep.
Thank you guys so much for that. We appreciate it. Spread the word about the show. If you're checking out this show because you heard it on that show, thank you for doing that. Subscribe wherever you find a podcast. Tell a friend. It's a lot of fun. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. PBWF. A lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
Season 2, episode 3 just went live this week. Things are shaking up, and you said it 2 weeks ago, and I'm starting to agree with you as I'm going back and listening to these shows. It is our best booking that we've done.
Yep. I think season 1 was a great setup for how good season 2 is going to be. So if you really enjoyed season 1, just get ready for season 2. Spoiler and peek behind the curtain, we're like a couple of weeks ahead booking, and because we're trying to stay ahead of the game a little bit. The next couple of weeks that you're going to get is really good TV and pay-per-views. So get ready for it.
Yeah, for sure. Make sure you check that out. Subscribe wherever you find your podcast for this show and for that one as well. All right, Andy, let's bring back Old School 101. We have punted on this for a couple of weeks now, but it's time to bring it back. What do we got for this week?
So with Backlash, or WrestleMania Backlash, or WWE Backlash, or whatever they're calling Backlash this year, it's got 3 names in the last 3 weeks.
Sure.
With Backlash right around the corner, we are going to be talking about the last Backlash under the WWF title. Don't sue us, Wildlife Fund Foundation, whatever it's called. We are going to be talking about Backlash 2002, which if you don't know about this show, this is coming off of WrestleMania 18, where you saw Hogan and Rock, you had Austin and Scott Hall,
Triple H Jericho.
a decent WrestleMania 18. But coming into Backlash, this one is one of the best Backlashes of all time, if not the best.
If not the best.
Because you've got several matches that really showcase the young generation while also giving their flowers to the older generation as well. Hogan winning his last title here.
Yep.
You've got Jeff Hardy versus Brock Lesnar.
It's Brock Lesnar's first official match.
It is Brock Lesnar's first official match. You've got RVD versus Eddie Guerrero, which is just magic in the ring anytime you put those two together.
That feud is so good. Their ladder match on Monday Night Raw in this era is just out of this world, man.
Yeah. And then you've got a young Edge versus Kurt Angle, which, is this during his babyface run, Edge's babyface run?
Yes. So this is the start of the SmackDown 6 era because this is the first pay-per-view following the first draft.
Right.
The first draft happened a couple of weeks before this.
Yeah.
So this is babyface Edge, his first run. This is starting the hair versus hair feud.
Yeah.
Because I think it's the next pay-per-view that Kurt Angle gets his head shaved.
Yeah. See,
I think.
Hot take about Edge. I think Edge, the character, is a lot better as a heel.
For sure.
But he wrestles better as a babyface.
For sure.
Like it's very weird. Like during this Edge babyface run are some of his best matches of his career, including this one.
This one, he was tag champs with Rey Mysterio in this era when Rey gets in there. He was tag champs with Hogan in this era. Yeah. So Edge did some great stuff, and it gets overlooked because the fans crapped on him early on. And like a lot of people got behind him.
Right.
But then a lot of people crapped on him when he came back from his neck injury and all that kind of stuff. So it was a mixed bag with Edge in this era until he fully went heel. Yeah. But some really good stuff.
Yeah. And I think that kind of plays a massive part in this as well. But I mean, if you're talking about Backlash 2002, I'm not the biggest fan of the guy, but you've got to talk about Hogan winning the title from Triple H. Obviously WrestleMania 18, I don't think WWE at the time realized how popular Hogan was going to be coming back. Yep. I think they made the switch like mid-match between Rock and Hogan. They didn't make the switch, but Rock really quickly realized, I am the heel in this match, so I need to play it up. Hogan realized
the finish wasn't switched, but the roles
were switched in mid match because the crowd was so into it. So just him getting the title now, it seems like it doesn't make a lot of sense, but when you go back in context of what it was, he's probably the biggest babyface of the company at that point. Makes sense to put the title on him.
This night, I watched this pay-per-view live when it happened in 2002. I remember it vividly. Why? Because I was a huge Triple H fan.
Yep.
And this was Triple H coming back from his quad injury, first time as a babyface, his crowning moment at WrestleMania, and then Backlash rolls around and they take it away from him. So needless to say, this night is really where my disdain for Hulk Hogan came from.
Yeah, makes sense.
This night right here. Now, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Hot run, don't
know how many more he has left in him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, the call was made after WrestleMania. Hogan will send the private jet to Tampa. Go get your red and yellow gear.
Yeah.
We're putting you in red and yellow, blah, blah, whatever. Like, I get all of that, so understand, but man, this really, I think, derailed Triple H a lot in this era because we did not really get, a couple of years later we got it, but people were sour on Triple H at that point.
Yeah.
We did not get a real babyface run as champion from Triple H because the next time he was champion was in 2003.
Right.
And he was a heel. No, into 2002, sorry.
Yeah.
In 2002, he was a heel.
Yeah.
And then we got, like I said, we got babyface runs in like the 06, 07, 08, whatever. But it was different.
I think this kind of explains why Triple H kind of was the way he was in the 2008, 2009, 2006, 7, 8.
Yep.
But especially during the Reign of Terror that people like to acknowledge that reign as because, here's the thing, it happened to him. Mm-hmm. And so he didn't mind. He saw, well, that's how you get up in this company, and it kind of played into it.
It happened to him there. It happened to him at WrestleMania 12 when the Ultimate Warrior came back because they had this whole match
Picked out the
planned.
pedigree at 1.
Yeah, they had this whole match planned. And as Triple H tells the story, Warrior changed the match in Gorilla before they went out into what you saw.
Yeah.
So, like...
And like, you got to think also, like, with the Click incident, he got the entire King of the Ring thing taken away from him, which worked out better for the company in the long run because that's where Austin came onto the scene. Mm-hmm. But he, for all of the crap he has put other people through, it's not fair to say he hasn't gone through his fair share of crap as well, which I think is why when he looks at the younger generation of wrestling today with NXT in the past and now what he's doing on the main roster, is why he has such a appreciation for what the wrestling world is now, because it's not as cutthroat as it once was, and I think everybody benefits more from it when it's not cutthroat.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. So for all of you people out there who don't like Triple H, who think all he does is just bury people or whatever,
he did, but not anymore.
Maybe it's just a receipt. Who knows? And
I'm a Punk fan too, and I know he buried Punk, but I'm a Punk fan too, and I can see why Triple H is the way Triple H was.
Right.
Was. Not anymore, but the way he was.
We'll get to that Punk thing in just a second.
Yeah.
But before we do, we brought back Old School 101 this week. We're going to bring back our Pipe Bomb of the Week this week. Again, we put that on hold for a bit. You've been on vacation, so I'll let you sit and stew for a second.
Oh, I've got mine ready.
You got yours ready?
I've got mine ready.
Let's hit it. Pipe Bomb of the Week. Andy, what you got?
My pipe bomb of the week is everybody freaking out because Commander was jumping and running on the ropes and freaking out because Jay White was just standing there. When every suicide dive, people just stand there. With every top rope move, everybody just stands there. And oh yeah, one of the most beloved wrestlers of all time, The Undertaker, did a move called the Old School. Well, guess what the opponent did?
Stood
there. It's a thing that happens in wrestling. It's a part of wrestling. We take our belief and kind of put it in the back. We take logic, kind of put it in the back and say, oh yeah, this is just what happens. Get over it. Move on. Commander is amazing in the ring. Vikingo is amazing in the ring. Lucha Libre is really, really fun when you look at it in the context of Lucha Libre.
I didn't even see this online backlash nonsense.
Oh, people are all over it. It's
just saying that Jay White
looks like an idiot. I'm like, no, he doesn't. He's taking a wrestling move.
Listen, when guys do high-risk moves, it's safety first.
Exactly. I would rather him stand there and help him to make sure he doesn't break his neck.
Yep.
Just like I'm fine with Jericho falling on a crash pad. I wish they hit it a little better, but I'm fine with him falling on a crash pad because, I want Jericho to wrestle some more.
He should fall on a crash pad. They should just hide it better. But
exactly.
That's neither here nor there. Great. I like that. IWC, Internet Wrestling Community, just stop.
It's the WWE shills and it's the AEW shills. Just if you like what you like, watch what you like. If you don't like the other company, don't watch and don't have an opinion because you don't know what's going on.
Exactly. I get it.
And if you're in the middle like me and Chris, enjoy it.
Right. Exactly. And then you have the freedom, if you're in the middle,
to criticize. Yes.
Yeah, you have the freedom to criticize. It's ridiculous. All right, my pipe bomb of the week. Promos are either supposed to tear you down or fire you up. And there was one this week that was supposed to tear me down, but did the total opposite. Ladies and gentlemen, Trish Stratus spoke truth on Monday Night Raw.
Yep.
It is. I'm not going to say you can't deny it, but it is very hard to deny what she said on Monday Night Raw.
Yep.
I absolutely love it. It was so good. Like, I'm still worried about how this is going to go because I know that we just mentioned the Internet Wrestling Community. Fans nowadays are going to just look at this and be like, oh, they're trying too hard or they're doing that, which to a point I get.
Yeah.
I understand. But Trish is a believable heel when you give her a shot.
Yeah.
And, man, if Monday was any indication, she hit it out of the park.
I agree completely. My only thing is it was hard to hear what she was saying because the fake boos were way too loud.
Yes, they were.
We got to turn the fake boos down.
Yes. Yeah,
I get you wanted to be a heel and you're trying to coerce the audience into that direction and make sure of it. But just let her speak her mind. If it's a little quiet when she's talking, that's fine. She'll say something that gets a reaction, which she did, but you couldn't hear the real crowd's reaction because the fake crowd was way too loud.
Was
but
a little loud,
when you take what she said in the promo, you're absolutely right. It's very, very hard to deny. I even when I love when she said it wasn't me and Lita. It was just me.
Yeah.
It was me. Like, I was the one.
That's right.
You're welcome. Like, yes, play into that character more, please.
Yep, she did it. That's exactly right.
And she came dressed out like she did when she was a heel, and it was just perfect. Everything about it was perfect.
Doing it well. I had my reservations. We're not out of the woods yet, like I said, but we're off to a great start with this Trish Stratus heel run. All right, Andy, before we get to the biggest questions in the world of wrestling this week, which we like to answer, we talked about a couple of things that I know that you have a great opinion on. We talked about those last week. I did not intentionally do that because
happened.
you weren't here. That was what was in the news last
literally
week.
just happened last week, yeah.
So, but I want to give you a chance to weigh in on those things. The first thing being CM Punk, and basically the rumor and innuendo is it's not if, it's when he's coming back.
Yep.
He's willing to do business. The Bucks might not be. Kenny might be somewhere in the middle.
Yep.
Jericho is supposed to be on board. They're supposed to. A lot of this stuff going on.
Right.
But the question that I posed to Tyler last week is the same one I'm going to pose to you. It's not who should feud with CM Punk. We know Elite is money.
Yeah.
Jericho can work, whatever. The question is, does AEW need CM Punk? We've been without him since what?
All Out.
September? Yeah.
Yeah.
Been without him since September. Do they need him?
So, do they need him in a locker room sense? Absolutely not. I think they've got the locker room back where they wanted it to be. Part of that was also because Kenny and the Bucks weren't there too, and Jericho and Moxley and Danielson got to step up and be the locker room leaders. All of that worked out really, really well. From a fan perspective, if you look online, and I know Twitter is a vacuum and it's a very small bubble of the audience, but I feel like it's a bigger portion of the AEW audience.
I agree.
Is Twitter users and everything. People are clamoring for Punk to be back. Like, people want Punk to come back.
Do you think they want him to come back just to settle this Elite thing on screen? Or what do you think?
I think part of it is that, but I think also the other part is they want just Punk back in wrestling.
I got you.
Because it's hard to deny when Punk was in AEW was a lot better.
It felt bigger.
Yeah. Every feud Punk was in felt huge.
Sure.
I mean, his Moxley feud, we can talk about the squash match decision and everything else, but the feud felt huge. The Hangman feud felt huge. His one with MJF is probably the best feud in AEW history. So I think a locker room perspective, you don't need him. But from a in-ring and from a fan perspective, I think AEW needs him. I think AEW is missing a piece, a component, and I feel like that component is CM Punk.
What are your thoughts on the rumors that they're able to bring him back for this second show that they're going to announce and launch and split the rosters so that maybe he only affects half of the locker room?
I think I've also seen reports where it's like the people who want to work with Punk are going to be on the Saturday show. The people who don't are going to be on Dynamite. That's not going to be sustainable at all.
Nope.
But if that's how you're going to start, the show, I think that's a good way to get him back in, and then you can. And Tony Khan's mind, he's probably thinking, I'll get Punk back in, and then we can settle everything once he's back in, and once the Bucks and Kenny, if this is going to be true, if the Bucks and Kenny realize, okay, AEW is better with Punk at least in the company. I think that's really important. Also, giving him a Saturday show, why not? Like, at this point, why not? I will say, if they are going to do a 2-hour Saturday show, brand split, please. I think the roster is big enough. I think you send the people that you want to develop to Ring of Honor. Everybody else gets split up between the two brands. You keep your world champion. You keep one world champion. You keep one women's champion. You keep one tag champion. Put TNT on TNT. Put TBS on TBS. And you keep moving and you go forward. And I think that would work really well because the roster is very bloated.
Okay.
And huge.
So I have to ask you this now because you just spawned the question. This is not in our notes. There's not a graphic for this. We're going off on a tangent.
Yeah.
Why are you okay with having one champion in AEW but not in WWE? with a brand split.
Because it's been established in WWE for so long that I feel like if you take away another title, it won't work. Mm. Now, I'm not necessarily against having one world champion. I'm against one champion having two titles. So if you're going to have two world championships, you need to have two world titles. If you're going to have two women's championships, you need to have somebody
But the thing
hold it.
But the thing with Roman is just the fact that he looks better with the two titles. He looks more dominant.
Yeah.
So I think it's a scenario where there is only one champion. It's better to hold two instead of one.
Right. I think for me though, with AEW, they set this they set this precedent that they're not going to just do two world titles. They're not going to try to appease.
Sure.
One, because TBS and TNT are owned by the same people, so they don't really care if they have a world title or not.
Good point.
And that plays a massive role in this because Fox wants their champion. USA probably wants their champion. So I don't know. I feel like with AEW, two world champions doesn't fit who they are. I think with WWE, it fits who they are. Plus, you got to also know, like, WWE has more star power.
Sure.
More, I'm not going to say world champion material, because I think there are a few people in AEW that could benefit from having two world champions. Mm-hmm. But I think with WWE, it's been established for so long. Yeah. It's been a long time since we've had one world champion. I think it was 2013?
14. Because Bryan won it in 14. There was only one world champion when Bryan won it in 14. I don't remember when they split it after that.
Because I know Rock was the champion when he debuted the new title. Was there a world champion that year too? 2013? Yeah, because Cena and Randy unified the titles in 13.
Yes, in the middle of
13. Yeah,
middle of 13.
And then after Daniel Bryan won, and a couple months later, they just got rid of the big gold belt and brought the WWE Championship
exactly.
in.
Yep.
But it was only for 3 years that they did that. And then they did the brand split. We got the Universal title, everything else. So I feel like
it was 16.
So it's only 2 years.
Yep.
So I just think WWE has set the precedent. They're going to have two world champions. I think with AEW, they have so far set the precedent that they're just keeping one world, one women's, two TV titles, and one tag title and a trios title.
My only thing is that...
And the All-Atlantic title. There's a lot of titles in AEW.
Right.
And the FTW title.
Which, again, you don't... Because you have so many titles, you don't need another world title.
Right.
But my concern is if you're coupling a second show with a separate roster and you only have 4 pay-per-views a year.
Right.
I think there's room for a world title because of those circumstances. But again, I am of the mindset that I want one world champion, period, for any brand. So I'm all for the one world champion. But I think, and you said it best, like WWE has established this. It makes sense there.
Yeah.
And another world champion might be watered down more in AEW.
Right.
But we just sit here and said how many titles they have.
Right.
I think you need to introduce another title that maybe acts as your world title, but you don't necessarily call it that.
See, I think if we'd have done a brand split with Mox and Punk as champion, I think that would have worked.
Yes.
I think with MJF needs to be the one world champion right now.
I agree with that, which is why, like, you do like... But I don't know what you would call it, but
if you want, because I think this Saturday show is going to be on TNT. If you want the TNT Championship to feel like your world title-esque thing, put it on Punk.
Well, quit bouncing it around so freaking much.
Listen, I will say this: they have bounced the TNT title around a lot. The story has gotten very convoluted, makes no sense.
Gosh,
I will give credit where credit is due. The All Atlantic, or whatever they're calling it now, they have booked Orange Cassidy.
International.
Yeah, they have booked Orange Cassidy really good.
Yeah, they've done that well. They've done that well.
Like, Orange Cassidy has been the MVP of AEW this year.
Interesting. We'll get to that at the end of the year. All right, one more thing that we want you to weigh in on is this current run of Bray Wyatt. Obviously, it started with huge fanfare. The anticipation was insane.
Yeah.
The debut was off the chart, the return was off the charts, one of the best returns of all time. And even the build to the Royal Rumble match was really interesting. You know, I don't know that LA Knight was a great first opponent for Bray, but it put LA Knight in the spotlight, and he may have actually benefited more from being Bray's opponent than most people do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we haven't really seen Bray since, rumors, sick, what have you.
Yeah.
Overall, just thoughts.
Thoughts on his run?
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to be careful of how I ask, because it's not like I'm asking you, what have they done on TV? Is what they've done on TV good?
Right.
Or is his backstage politics working against him?
Right.
Again, quote unquote.
Right.
Just the whole situation.
I don't think there's a coincidence in the way that things have played out. With about the time when he stopped appearing on TV, some other heavy rumors have started circulating, not about him, but about a certain someone that has gotten more and more and more prevalent in the company.
But
I will say this. I think his re-debut, because it's a return of Bray Wyatt, but it's a completely different character. One of the greatest, if not the greatest, returns of all time.
Sure.
First couple weeks, very intriguing, very, very interesting. His run, for me, has been extremely lackluster. I don't know if it's his fault. I'm not going to put a lot of the blame on him. I think because he even said this, I believe, in the Ryan Satin interview that he did. He's willing to try anything.
Sure.
And if it doesn't work, hey, it didn't work. Let's move on from it.
I think, though, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
I think the context of Bray saying he's willing to try anything is whatever craziness comes to my mind is what I want to try.
Yeah.
Not, hey, here's creative.
Yeah.
We're going to go string you up on a pole and have a Bray Wyatt on a pole match.
Right.
And Bray's going to say, no, that sucks. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So I think there's context to that.
Right. But like,
I think, though, the Vince rumors, I don't think has really hampered him. Because if you believe what's been written online, and I tend to lean this way. I try not to let the internet form my opinions,
right.
but I lean this way.
Right.
That Vince was the one who started to try to bring Bray back before he left. So if that narrative is true, I'm not saying that what Vince has done with Bray in the past is great.
Right.
I'm just saying that I don't think it's Vince versus Bray.
See, I think Vince, because here's the thing. I think Vince might have been one of the ones to try to bring Bray back. I don't think Bray comes back if Vince stays in power.
Oh, no, that's fair.
I don't think it's all. I think what I mean is, if Bray got the idea that Vince was coming back, I think Bray wouldn't want to stay because we talked about it with Tony Khan. We talked about it with Vince McMahon. He enjoys something for a while, something new comes along, and he completely dumps what he was focused on. Mm-hmm. The Fiend is a perfect example of that. He tried to overuse The Fiend way too much at the beginning. It lost all of its fanfare, and The Fiend got very old very quickly. And then it all kind of just fell apart a little bit after that. So I think that's what I'm saying is, I think Vince sees money. Vince saw money in Bray, but Bray is not willing to work with Vince because of the past, I think. And I think that kind of plays somewhat of a role in everything that's happened. Now, do I think he's probably been sick and whatever the reports? Probably. It's not. I'm not here to speculate whether he's no-showing or not.
Because we know he was at Mania.
Right.
We saw the video that somebody posted online of him in a car in Los Angeles. He was there.
Right. And the thing is, like, we talked about this with Keith Lee when he was in WWE. And we're like, where's Keith Lee been? He says he's sick, but where's he been? And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, he almost died. So, like, yes, exactly. He was very, very sick. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm not going to speculate one way or another
for sure
about Bray. I miss him. Mm-hmm. Like, I miss seeing him on TV. I was somewhat intrigued by the Uncle Howdy thing. I just think the problem we ran into benefited them in the beginning, but turned into an issue halfway through is we were never given answers.
Yep. Bingo.
We were given some, and then like they gave us answers and then gave us new questions. That's totally fine.
Yep.
But we never understood why. We never got why Uncle Howdy aligned himself with Bray. We never got who Uncle Howdy really even is in the first place.
We didn't get why Uncle Howdy got physical. We didn't get why the puppets showed up at the Royal Rumble.
Right.
We needed, and I said this last week, and I continue to say this because I firmly believe this, we needed something concrete to happen, to hold on to get us to the next phase.
Yep.
And we didn't get it.
And it didn't help that Uncle Howdy missed the jump by as bad as he did.
Nah, I don't think that hurt it, honestly.
I think it hurt some of the mystique because when you realized how bad he missed, it's like, okay, that's just that. I think there was some elements of it that hurt because even when it happened, everybody in the room was like, oh, he missed big time.
I think more, and I've said this too, I think it more hurts that Uncle Howdy got physical, period, than anything because he lost the mystique as soon as he got physical.
Yeah.
And the mystique of Uncle Howdy was part of the intrigue of this whole storyline.
Yeah. Now they could be. I mean, they could now just be waiting until Alexa Bliss comes back, for Bray to come back in. I think Bray still comes back before Alexa does, if Bray comes back at all. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a really good chance he still comes back. But I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of unanswered stuff that if this is the end and we don't get Bray back, it would be very hard for people to get as excited as they were for when if Bray ever comes back down the line.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. Yep, for sure. And again, we're not saying Andy's the biggest Bray Wyatt fan that I know.
I love Bray.
So we're not saying that Bray has let us down in any way.
No.
There's certainly inside, I won't even call it outside forces, inside forces that we don't know what's happening that is causing us to not get fulfilled with Bray's run.
Because when Bray is super creative and is allowed to do some of the things he wants to do. I mean, the Firefly Funhouse match is one of my favorite matches at WrestleMania of all time because it's just so different and weird. Mm-hmm. It's the best thing. That and the Boneyard match were the best two things about the pandemic era.
Right.
Was those two things. Mm-hmm. Because then everything else with The Fiend and Randy Orton was horrible. Mm-hmm. I mean, horrible.
I'm not going to go that far, but whatever.
That WrestleMania 37 was
great.
The worst WrestleMania match I've ever seen. One of the worst WrestleMania matches I've ever seen.
I was going to say, have you ever watched Undertaker and Giant Gonzalez? Anyway.
That made more sense than what we got with Randy and Bray. We never got the answers why Alexa was just sweating black goop for no reason and turned on Bray.
I think we were supposed to, and then Alexa did her thing where she has to now go away because she has skin cancer and all this other stuff. I honestly think we were headed to get the payoff of that.
I think we were too, but
I'm not saying I'm not going to bat for it.
Right.
But I enjoyed it more than most everybody else does.
I thought it was horrendous. First off, Randy shouldn't have won. And second of all, it was just Vince got you could tell it was a Vince thing from the beginning.
It got a little out there for sure. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the other biggest questions in the world of wrestling this week. One of a couple of people who have lit up the internet rumor mill is Becky Lynch. This is the biggest name, not the biggest name, but the more shocking name because we haven't really seen any uneasiness or any stirring the pot from Becky Lynch.
Right.
Until she blacked out her Twitter, changed her name to her real name. I don't think this warrants a big discussion, but it's a hot topic. We're going to talk about it. On a scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you right now with this Becky Lynch? Just Becky.
Just Becky.
I'm not Drew, because we can talk about the Drew rumors all day long, which Tyler and I did last week. Seth Rollins, he seems like almost that he is just... Seth Rollins is a ticking time bomb. Yes. And it's okay. Like, we get that. But just Becky Lynch.
Becky, I'm like a 2. Like a 2.
Yeah, me too. Literally the number that I wrote down. 2.
I think part of this is storyline more than anything else. I will say this. I think if Seth doesn't start getting appreciated more, this becomes more of an issue. I think this becomes more of a... I'm not going to say there's zero because I think somebody else said this and I completely agree. I never thought Cody Rhodes was leaving AEW for WWE. So I'm not saying anything's never going to happen. But I think this is more storyline based. And she's using what Drew and Seth have done to kind of play into that more.
For sure.
Now, if this does end up happening, I think this hurts WWE more than Drew leaving. And I think this could potentially hurt more than Seth leaving.
Becky's not leaving WWE. If Becky leaves WWE, she's going to be an actress or a mom. I
probably
firmly believe that.
Probably, but even when she does that, WWE's going to suffer.
Right. Oh, it definitely will. But she has talked, even before all this happened, that she has less time in front of her than she did behind her.
Yeah.
Because she wants to go into acting. And if she's vocal about that now, I don't think that hurts as bad as a Rock or a Batista or a whatever. She's vocal about doing it now. Okay, she's probably going to have her last match in like 2 years.
Probably.
And be done. Okay, great. Yes, I agree that it hurts WWE.
Yeah.
But I think there's a small chance, that Seth Rollins could go to AEW at some point in the future.
Yeah.
Small.
Yeah.
Still don't think it's likely. I think there's zero chance Becky goes.
I don't think there's any chance Becky goes to AEW either. What I'm saying is if Becky leaves WWE because she's unhappy with WWE, that hurts WWE a lot.
Sure it does.
Like, even if she just leaves to go be an actor or actress or a mom or whatever, if she leaves unhappy and becomes vocal about how unhappy she was when she left, that would deter a lot of people from going to WWE.
But again, in listening to Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch and, using the way that they do use social media, because they've been open that, yes, they use it for storylines.
Plus, this isn't the first time Seth has blacked out his
exactly.
Twitter.
So I honestly, Drew kind of concerns me a little.
Yeah.
Seth and Becky don't concern me at all. I really don't.
The only thing I'll say about Seth is I think Seth, the Raw after Mania, was extremely frustrated.
Sure he was.
Extremely, for a good reason. Obviously, I didn't watch 2 weeks ago. Was he on Raw at all?
This past Monday, yeah.
No, not the one where he wrestled The Miz. The one before.
Oh no, he was not. Okay,
I think those two things leave a little concern. Obviously, he wrestled Miz, and the match was great and everything. I think I'm not going to say zero. I think Seth leaving would be a huge, huge, huge blow.
It would be
bigger than Cody leaving AEW for WWE.
Yes.
I will say this though, Drew's going to hurt a lot more than people realize.
Oh, for sure, he's his company guy.
And I think there's a really good chance Drew doesn't stay in WWE.
I mean, I think that's possible too.
Now his contract won't let him show up at All In Wembley.
Right.
But I mean, if it did, boy, that would be a huge pop.
I know. I think we'll see again. Drew, maybe. Seth, no. Becky, not a chance. So I'm not concerned about Becky.
I'm not concerned either. Again, though, Cody Rhodes has completely changed the game, so I'm not going to say never, but I would be very, very, very shocked.
Yep.
I think she's the one of the four horsewomen that I would be completely shocked if she left.
Yeah.
Charlotte wouldn't shock me. Bayley wouldn't shock me. Obviously, Sasha has already gone off and has done quite well for herself after she has left.
Right.
Becky would shock me.
Yep, for sure. All right. We mentioned this a couple weeks ago, and he's back in the news again. Goldberg is making waves in the news because he had a handshake deal with Vince McMahon and was promised a retirement match, didn't get it, and he's very vocal about not being happy about it.
Yeah.
So now he is rumored to do a 4-city tour, retirement tour. Okay, fine. My question to you, Andy, is do wrestling fans really want to see this? I know there's a lot of Goldberg marks out there.
Yeah.
But one, what does the guy have left to prove? Number two,
he's going to kill somebody.
Most, if not all, of those Goldberg marks are WWE fans.
Yes.
So if this somehow ends up in AEW, it's not going to go the way Goldberg wants it to go.
He'll be the heel.
if he does some sort of independent thing like is being rumored, who's he going to wrestle? Like, that's my thing is like, who is out there that would satisfy Goldberg's last 4 matches?
Right.
Because I think here is where, I'll let you answer the question. Sorry, I'm stepping all over you.
You're good.
I think here is where the rubber really meets the road that is not being said, but is being inferred.
Mm-hmm.
Goldberg wanted a retirement match, but Goldberg wanted to win.
Probably.
And in a retirement match in WWE,
You lose.
you're probably going out on your back.
Yeah.
I don't think Goldberg wanted to do that.
No. And that's part of the reason why I don't think he'll end up in AEW is because they're not going to bring Goldberg in to beat Wardlow. And like,
They'd bring him in to beat Jericho.
maybe.
And that one would make sense.
Who would want to see Goldberg versus Jericho in 2023? I mean, one, I would literally fear for Jericho's life in that match.
Yep.
And two, at least with Wardlow, I trust Wardlow enough to make it look decent.
Goldberg can't pick him up, though.
I think Wardlow would help him more than Taker did.
I don't think Taker
and Bray.
I don't think Taker intentionally didn't help him.
No, I don't either. I just don't think Goldberg was strong enough.
That's what I'm saying.
But I think Wardlow's strong enough to keep his core up.
I get you. Yeah, you may be right. I mean, Goldberg did lift up Drew. So
yeah,
that's
and
possible.
Roman, he lifted up Roman.
That's true. Okay, possible.
So I think Wardlow would work. Listen, it would be so fun. It's never going to happen. But Goldberg versus Will Ospreay would be very entertaining and very interesting.
But
there's no way Ospreay would lose to Goldberg. There's no way Goldberg would want to lose to Ospreay. Ospreay also has a lot of health injuries right now that I don't want to step in the ring with Goldberg. I don't think there's going to be a big enough name outside of AEW and WWE, except for maybe Impact, that could allow this. I could absolutely see his last match being against Bully Ray.
Bully is literally the biggest name out there.
Maybe Dreamer.
No. Bully Ray is literally the biggest name out there that Goldberg could wrestle on this retirement tour that would make sense. And the context of make sense is it's freaking Goldberg.
Right.
His last match should have been being pinned by Roman Reigns. End of discussion.
He got choked out. Yeah.
Choke out, whatever.
Yeah. His last match should be against Roman.
Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Goldberg is like The Undertaker, but
Right.
what I'm saying is this would be like The Undertaker saying, I'm going to have another match, but I'm not going to WWE and not going to AEW. Who on God's green earth is big enough to be billed against Goldberg that would do it?
With Taker, I think it's different.
No.
But I see I completely agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
There's not a star. I mean, listen, if this was 10 years ago, Sting and Goldberg one last time.
Sure.
Perfect. That's fine. And I think Goldberg would be willing to lose
To Sting.
to Sting in his last match.
Mhm.
Now, please don't do that. Please keep those two dudes away from. I mean, a segment where they're in the ring together, fine, but keep them away from each other.
Right.
Maybe a Jeff Jarrett.
I think Goldberg would be willing to lose to Jericho in his last match.
Maybe, but again,
Do you want to see?
do you really want to see Jericho and Goldberg?
I know.
I would be fine with Goldberg and Jarrett,
So my answer to this question,
or Goldberg and Bully.
my answer to this question is: do wrestling fans really want to see this? Absolutely not.
No,
There's no need for it.
no.
Can you go back to WWE and have a couple more matches? Sure, you can. But do we need this big hoopla Goldberg retirement that does not involve WWE? Because I think AEW could be fine.
Yeah,
Like, if this 4-city retirement thing is going to last all year,
right.
he could do a per-match deal with AEW and wrestle Wardlow and wrestle Jericho.
Yeah,
And then come back to WWE and wrestle, I don't know who.
Braun Breaker.
Fine, whatever. My point is, doing this without WWE
Yeah,
is pointless,
Yes,
in my
it
opinion.
is. It is. I think Goldberg is trying to hold on to whatever little relevancy he has.
Yep.
Because I will admit, before he returned to WWE, the big thing was, when is Goldberg ever going to come back?
Yep.
Is Goldberg ever going to come back? And I feel like we go through waves of that in wrestling. Because like before Goldberg, it was, is Bret Hart ever going to come back?
Mm-hmm.
Now, and then it was Goldberg. Is Goldberg ever going to come back?
Mm-hmm.
Is Punk ever going to come back?
Shawn Michaels.
Is Shawn Michaels ever going to come back? Ric Flair, please go away. But I think with Goldberg, that time has sailed.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody, if he showed up on Raw, yeah, he would get a pop because it's Goldberg and everybody would love him.
Mm-hmm.
The same way that if Flair's music hit, people would pop.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean they want to see him wrestle. Right. They're just happy to see
Hulk Hogan
in the ring. Hogan in the ring, yeah. To an extent, Stone Cold. Like, yeah, that what he did last year with Kevin Owens was awesome and fantastic, and it was really fun.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to see him do that every year, though.
Right.
So I think Goldberg's trying to hold on to relevancy. I'm not a Goldberg fan at all. I think the dude is the most overrated wrestler of all time. And I stick by that. And if I never see Goldberg wrestle again, I'm totally
who
fine with
has
that.
him highly rated? Because like he's very vocal that like he's not very good. Right. And he didn't learn a whole lot.
I think people hold on to his WCW run. Undefeated.
173-0.
Was he actually 173-0?
That's what the number was.
Yeah. Undefeated, all this other stuff, comes into WWE. People loved him when he came into WWE. Like, that's fine, but that was a time period when you didn't necessarily have to be a good wrestler to be prominent in wrestling.
Especially in WCW. They were trying to make stars.
Exactly.
You know, the NWO was kind of winding down at that point, and Goldberg really was he was the face.
And the comparison with Wardlow is like, yeah, but Wardlow's actually good in the ring.
Sure.
Like, Wardlow can do stuff. Goldberg has never been able to do anything. I think a lot of people are just, this for the same reason why the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan are their favorite wrestlers and some of the best wrestlers of all time. I think Goldberg is in that big names. Big monsters, big names. And I get that. And there's a place in wrestling for that. But we've got plenty of that in WWE and AEW. We don't need Goldberg.
But not in 2023 when you're 56 years old and, you know, whatever.
You've got guys like Braun Strowman who are bigger than you, doing more impressive things than you're doing.
Frog splash.
Brock Lesnar is F5 and Omos and other stuff. Like, we don't need you, Goldberg.
Yep, I agree. All right. After we recorded last week, so we did not get to this last week, FTR announced their 4-year deal with AEW. We speculated if this was going to be real or not. They indicate that it is real. Well, they also indicated they held up what they've said before, that their next contract is going to be their last. And they have said after this 4 years, they're done.
Yep.
They're retiring. So we know the end game. We know the end date. What else? If the slate's clean for the next 4 years, give me a couple things that we need or we want to see from FTR over the next couple of years.
One, I think they need to be more prominent on AEW TV.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of AEW TV, was the Pepsi machine?
I don't know, but I popped for it. I can tell you that right now.
Just wondered.
Honestly, CM Punk and FTR together at some point in the next 4 years, I think is a must.
They do need to be trios champions.
Like, they need to be trios champion. Listen, that versus the Elite would sell out Wembley. Not sell out Wembley, but it would be the main event of Wembley easily.
For sure would. Yeah.
For me, honestly, I think Dax as a champion by himself.
TNT champion.
TNT, like all international. I would be fine with a world title run, but he's not going to get a world title run.
Not going to happen.
And even Cash. Like, listen, I love Dax, but Cash is just as good. Like, I think the thing I want the most is them to stay together.
Yes.
No splits.
Yep, I agree.
They can go after singles titles on their own, but they're still, at the end of the day, FTR.
I don't think they would have signed this contract if they were to split.
Exactly.
But I will say this. We might not have a split, but I would be okay with their last match being against each other.
Absolutely. Because we've seen that once before, and boy, it was good. If we tell a story around it, then I'm absolutely fine with that. I feel the same way about FTR that I do about the Usos. They should never split.
Yeah, I want to see the Usos face each other.
Face each other, that's fine.
I just need
I don't
to
want
see
them
what
to
happens.
split. I don't want them to split. Like
It
that
doesn't make any sense. They're twins.
exactly. It doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
But I think in the next 4 years, and I know I'm very biased, but I think in the next 4 years, FTR is going to implement themselves as one of, if not the greatest tag teams of all time.
They got a good shot to put their stamp on this business.
And
in
I
the
think
next 4 years.
I think we are going to look at them. Obviously, yes, they had a great run in WWE, but I think their main success is going to come outside of the company. And I think we're going to look at them as one of the best independent tag teams of all time, if not the best. I mean, listen, the Briscoes have that locked up pretty well.
Yeah, that's probably not going anywhere.
But I think FTR is going to be one of those that when we look back at history of tag team wrestling in the next 10 to 15 years, they're going to be one of the first names that pop up.
Yep, I agree. Another name that we did not expect to pop up on our biggest questions in the world of wrestling this week and outside of WWE,
And
Mr. Nick Aldis, the national treasure, has revealed that he is signed with Impact Wrestling. He appeared at the Rebellion pay-per-view over the weekend. My question is not did WWE or did they not miss on this?
Right.
Or AEW for that matter.
Right.
How legit, though, do you think were the negotiations with WWE and AEW?
If they weren't legit, WWE and AEW dropped the ball big time. We have said before, and I even said this during the Rumble build because he was one of the ones that I thought would show up in the Rumble. Especially WWE, I feel like Nick Aldis fits that WWE mold perfectly.
He does. You're right.
Even still looking at him, I could look at him and say that would be a future WWE champion.
Do you think that in said contract negotiations, because this is where my brain went, in WWE, that they wanted him to go to NXT and he said no?
Maybe. But I feel like he's one of those that doesn't need, especially with the new NXT. He doesn't need NXT.
He doesn't need it.
But I can see them wanting him. I mean, listen, Nick Aldis showed up on NXT TV. I would start watching NXT more.
It would entice me more for sure.
Because and also Braun Breaker versus Nick Aldis would be very, very interesting.
Yeah.
But I think that may have been part of it, and I get why he wouldn't want to go to NXT because the money is on the main roster. Now, I will say it makes a lot of sense him going to Impact because one, his wife works for Impact. Which, by the way, get better, Mickie James. It sucks that she had to relinquish her title.
Yep.
But two, I feel like he fits the Impact mold really well as well. I feel like AEW was always going to be the dark horse in getting all this.
Mm-hmm.
I felt they were the front runner in a lot of ways to get Jay White. I feel like they were the dark horse to get Nick Aldis because he doesn't really fit the AEW style.
He would get lost in the shuffle very quickly.
Or he would stand out like MJF. Like it would be one of those two things.
Or you could have signed him and had him go to Ring of Honor.
Oh, man. Him in Ring of Honor would be... him as Ring of Honor champion would be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Yep.
But again, he may not want to because the money's in AEW.
That's true.
So...
But Nick Aldis has showed up. No more speculation.
Yep. I think he ends up in WWE at some point.
Well, if you want to hear him compete against WWE, guys, check out the PBWF because Nick Aldis is the current, spoiler alert, Intercontinental Champion in PBWF. So he's going to show up. Go check that out.
Yeah.
Also, make sure you check out our podcast everywhere it is available. Spotify, Apple, Google, all of those places. Make sure you check it out. Subscribe there and subscribe to the BodySlam.net YouTube channel. Like the video. That helps us a whole lot. Follow us on social media at PBW Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Make sure you're doing that. Make sure you're interacting with us. No viewer questions this week because we didn't get any. So... I'm just being honest. We didn't get any. So submit those viewer questions.
Yes,
we're gonna try to get to those next week. We love doing those. Those are a lot of fun. So as we wrap up the show here, thanks for tuning in with us. We appreciate it very much. As we wrap up the show, let's quick hit all of the other big storylines within WWE and AEW. One other thing we forgot to mention last week, I had it in my notes and completely glossed over it. Brian Cage re-signing with AEW. Good, bad,
I think it's fine.
Okay.
I think it's fine. I think it's interesting. I don't think he'd fit with Brock and everything. I don't think right now would be a good time for him in WWE.
Mm-hmm.
I think AEW, he's fine.
He's fine.
He's fine.
I agree
I
with
think
that.
Ring of Honor, he'd be fine too.
I agree. He was part of the Ring of Honor Trios
He
champions.
was. So I think if he
They-
just stays in Ring of Honor or goes to the Collision show on Saturday, I think that's fine.
There you go.
Him and Punk would be a very interesting.
Would be very interesting. I still need to see Brian Cage a little bit more in AEW.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of the Team Taz stuff, and
Yeah.
I thought that was a great pairing. But nonetheless, we'll see what happens. SummerSlam sold over 30,000 tickets, reportedly,
Yep.
on the first day tickets opened. Wow.
Yeah, it's huge.
That is monstrous.
That's what I call the Triple H effect.
That is monstrous.
Yeah. So are they going to be at the Lions Stadium?
Yes.
And that holds
70
something thousand.
Approximately 70.
How many
something.
How many tickets are they going to sell? Like, how many tickets are they offering?
Probably in the neighborhood of 45 to 55.
So almost a sellout.
Yep.
Day one.
It'll be just like SummerSlam in Vegas and SummerSlam in Nashville.
Yeah.
I mean, they won't block off I don't think they'll block off the entire half of the stadium like they did for SummerSlam
Right.
in Nashville, because it's domed, so they don't have to do that.
Probably
But-
like it was at AT&T Stadium.
I don't know.
Blocked off a little more than AT&T it was.
Yeah, I'll probably block off some more. Yeah. So I think in the neighborhood of 50,000 is be where they're
3/4 of the lower bowl will be open, I think.
Yeah.
And then the top sections will probably be
Yep.
more closed off.
It'll be interesting. Triple H hitting another home run. SummerSlam. My goodness. All right. We haven't really mentioned anything about the resurrection of the LWO. We kind of glossed over it WrestleMania weekend because it happened on SmackDown. We were
Right.
talking about other things and all that. What are your thoughts on this basically super group that Rey Mysterio put together?
I love it. I think it's a really it's a great tribute to Eddie, especially going into his feud with Dom at WrestleMania. But two, it gives Legado something to do, which I think is very important. And I'm not going to be shocked at the end of Backlash when Dominic Mysterio becomes the leader of the LWO.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly where we're heading. Either that or Bad Bunny's going to be a member, one of the two. Because that was reportedly supposed to happen on the Raw after Mania, and then, Vince happened and it got changed, and now I wouldn't be shocked if that happened, but I think at some point Dom's going to be the head of LWO.
I think that makes a lot of sense, for sure. I honestly don't like it. Just because the LWO wasn't a serious thing in WCW.
Right.
Even though Eddie was in it, it wasn't super over. It was, I guess a lot of things in WCW during that time, you had your really big hits and you had your really big misses.
Yeah.
So there was really no in between. I think it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. It's interesting.
It gets a huge reaction every time.
It does. It does. And I saw a lot of LWO shirts at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I'm not totally sold on it yet, but I mean, like you said, it's a thing for Legado to do. So
Yeah.
don't get lost.
And
in the shuffle.
it's the end game is going to be to get Dominic more heat, which the dude doesn't need any more heat, but they're going to figure out a way to give him more heat.
Listen, we talked about it at WrestleMania that Dominic needed to be the one to come out in the lowrider when he heads up the LWO.
He's coming out in lowrider. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
Vicky's not going to be a part of it anymore, but when he comes out in that lowrider, it's
Right.
I'm glad he didn't, because I'm glad Ray got to do that.
Yeah.
But when he does it for the first time,
It's gonna be nice.
it's going to be huge.
Yeah, it is. WWE now allowing wrestlers to stream on Twitch. Thank you for dropping the ball on Adam Cole.
Yes,
We
I was saying.
appreciate it very much.
Yeah, if you'd have done this about,
A
3
year
years,
ago.
a year ago, Adam Cole would probably still be in the company.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Drives me insane. Come on.
Cesaro might still be in the company. It might be a few other
Tyler
people.
Breeze.
Tyler Breeze.
He's not.
He's still in the companies, basically.
Ish.
He's a legend in WWE 2K23, so
That's a good point, which is the weirdest thing to me.
it makes sense, I think.
But-
He's not a legend, but it makes sense.
I mean, this is fantastic. I'm glad that they're finally able to do this.
Yeah.
And that if you read what was published about it, WWE is hardly taking a cut at all.
no. Twitch they're basically making what a normal Twitch streamer with that many views is making anyway.
Yeah.
So
I
I
think it's good.
don't
It's
really
good.
get what the big deal was about it the first time.
I mean, it's just making money outside of the company, outside of your contract, which is what happened with Mandy Rose. So There it is.
Yeah.
There's things you can and can't do. It's why WWE wrestlers can't appear at indie shows. It's just, it is what it is.
Wow.
Anyway.
Let's change some of that.
Shinsuke Nakamura returned on Friday Night SmackDown. A lot of people are saying we might finally get the Roman Shinsuke match coming up this year. I would be okay with that.
I'm fine with that. I would be totally fine with that. They just kind of did nothing with it.
Right. Yeah.
I think the only time they fought was a tribute to the troops. I think that was
Yes.
Roman Shinsuke, and then after that, it's been nothing.
It was nothing. Shinsuke's back. We don't really know if he was hurt or if he was just taking a break, because we know the last thing he did was the Japan match with Muta. So we don't really know what happened there, but Shinsuke's back.
I'm glad he's back.
I'm not glad that Rick Boogs is not with him, but that is what it is.
I'm very hesitant about his first feud back being Karrion Kross.
It'll be interesting. It'll give him somebody to beat.
Which sucks for Kross.
Yes, it does.
It really. They brought Karrion Kross in as a real threat to Roman,
and did
nothing.
Yep, did nothing with it.
I feel bad for Kross.
Triple H wins some and he loses some.
Yeah, he does.
That was a loss. All right, Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar.
Yeah,
on Monday Night Raw. Cody with no suit was
weird.
Wild.
It's weird.
Dude, I was like...
But then he ended up in a suit later on in the night. And I was like, there's a suit. We're good.
I know, but still, we've seen him fight so many times in a suit.
He wrestled Baron Corbin in a suit.
Yeah, exactly. That was weird. But let me tell you what, Brock Lesnar in a trench coat...
He's a heel.
Just when you think the cowboy stuff can't get any better, it does. He finds a way.
When he's a heel, he wears that long black trench coat like a outlaw, and it looks great. I will say this.
Oh my gosh.
I love that we were doing the Cody Brock feud.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a really great feud for Cody. I'm going to be really mad when Brock beats Cody because he needs all the adversity in the world, apparently, but that's another topic for another day because I'll talk about that for a while.
He does. It's a storyline.
He doesn't need that much. He broke his titty. He doesn't need any more adversity. Does the first 10 years of his career not count as adversity in the WWE? Anyways, that's a different. We'll talk about that later. But
what happened in the past didn't happen, pal.
That's a terrible excuse. My biggest problem with this feud is the reason behind it. That they have announced a couple of times on commentary, and I don't know if they've ever came back to it or given a real reason. But Brock is mad because he went on first and Cody went on last.
Yeah.
And when has Brock ever cared about that?
Yeah, that's true.
It's a very lazy way to get to this booking.
I agree with that. But at the same time, it's a main event feud.
If Cody would have won the titles, Brock could have been mad that Cody was the one to beat Roman and then he wasn't, and that feud goes, and it feels even bigger because it's for the titles. I'm still on the Cody should have won at Mania train. I'll be on that train forever. But I'm very glad that this feud is happening. Cody just needs to win it.
I think he will. But then, if he does win, what is there left to conquer before going to Roman Reigns? So we got to have some adversity for Cody. All right.
For Cody.
Next storyline, let's move over to AEW. I'm not a fan, and I know it had some controversy to it. I'm not a fan of this Pillars tournament.
Yeah, I think it's all front.
You think we're getting
the Fatal 4-Way.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is just MJF and Sammy being MJF and Sammy.
Okay.
And we're going to end up with it because I think what's going to happen is since MJF got involved in the match, Jungle Boy's going to get involved in that match next week between Darby and Sammy,
and we'll just get
we're just going to get a Fatal 4-Way.
Okay, I see. I was thinking that, but
they've been teasing this way too much. There's no way that this is not going to be a Fatal 4-Way for the title.
I did not like the promo to open Dynamite. I thought it was bad.
It was weird.
Because Jungle Boy's not great on mic.
He's not.
Darby is...
Normally he's fine, but...
Okay.
Sammy was okay.
Listen, when Sammy got the microphone, the whole promo... that was the bright spot of the whole promo for me, was when Sammy started talking. Yeah. It just...
I will say this.
I understand where we're going, and I think it's a great idea.
Right.
But I think this is one situation where only having 4 pay-per-views hurt you.
Yeah.
Because we're probably not going to get this till Double or Nothing.
Probably not.
And that is
we
5 weeks away.
we might get it at the when is Arthur Ashe?
That's not till the summer. It's not until like August, September.
That's right. Yeah.
So
What about Fight for the Fallen?
June. So it's after Double or Nothing.
Yeah, probably Double or Nothing's the best.
So, but I feel like they're starting this build a little too soon.
Maybe they might be, and I think we might see individual one-on-one matches for the title before we get to the Fatal 4-Way.
Oh, okay, I see.
But I will say this: when it was Jungle Boy and MJF cutting promos on each other, I enjoyed the promos. Even Jungle Boy, I think he held his own pretty well. Darby and MJF cutting promos on each other, that was really fun.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was really interesting. I think when it's the three of them together, there's not a lot to go off of.
Right.
Like the shot at Jungle Boy taking a Darby Allin, saying he wasn't a couldn't make it as a pro skateboarder, makes sense. That's fine. Darby Allin saying, "Are you Jungle Boy or are you Jack Perry today? Which one are you?
Right.
Which one are we going to call you?"
Thank you, Jim Ross.
That one was really good. It was a really weird segment.
You know why I think it's kind of weird is there's no history between these four guys.
The only history is they're known as the Four Pillars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all we have to go off of. They have not really interacted.
Right.
So the interest is like, oh, we want to see this match.
Yeah.
Don't really care what promo we have, This match doesn't really need a build. People
Right.
just want to see it happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's why it's a little bit tougher to get through.
Probably. I think that's why they're going to start doing the singles matches
Hopefully so.
to build it up a little bit better. Listen, when the Fatal 4-Way happens, it's going to be awesome.
Oh, it's going to be
It's
great.
going to be really good.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Has AEW ever had a multi-man match for the world title?
I don't think so.
Because I don't think so either.
I'm trying to think. Forbidden Door. No, that was Moxley and Tanahashi.
Mm-hmm.
The Fatal 4-Way was Cole, Okada,
Jay White.
Jay White, and
Do not remember.
was it Clark Connors? I think it was Clark Connors. That was in that Fatal 4-Way.
Yeah, because didn't he have to replace somebody?
Yeah, somebody got hurt.
That's why I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Which Clark Connors was really good in that match too.
Right.
I
I don't think they've
don't
ever
think,
had
I
a
don't think so. Not for the world title.
Nope, I don't think so.
Or for the women's, I don't think.
Yeah, they had a triple threat for the women's. Remember, because that's when Ruby turned.
That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
I don't think I think for the men, it's always been
Right.
Which, if this is going to be your first multi-man world title match, I'm all for it.
Sign me up.
That's a great way to
Yep.
do it.
We talked about hot shining the TNT title earlier, so we will skip.
I will say one thing about that.
Yes, go ahead.
Wardlow versus Luchasaurus is going to be a hoss fight, and I'm looking forward to that.
I will say that Arn Anderson showing up with Wardlow is pretty cool.
Yes, I like it.
I would rather see him show up in WWE and help Cody back on his run.
Yeah,
Would have been great.
I don't think Cody needs him,
No. I'm saying,
but I get what you're saying. Yeah,
would have been awesome.
Yeah.
The pop would have been great.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But him pulling out the Glock on QT was
was hilarious.
amazing.
It was hilarious.
And the DDT he hit, man, he
was good.
can still hit some his go-to moves. He can still pull them out when he needs to.
Last one, the Adam Cole, Chris Jericho, Britt Baker segment.
Yeah.
Was wild. Like
wild.
I very much. We talk about real life couples and on screen, and I think AEW's done a fantastic job of dabbling with Cole and Britt when it needs it.
Yeah.
And they're in Pittsburgh with Cole's parents and Britt's parents
Makes
there.
sense.
Makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. I'm still not a huge fan of the Jericho Cole feud. I think you said it last week, and I agree. I don't really want to see it.
Yeah.
But this made me more interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
The beatdown was a little
weird because Saraya was like barely touching Britt with the kendo stick.
I was like, Tony should be doing this because Tony would just be lighting her up, or Ruby. Both of them would be lighting them up. There is a really cool video surfacing though of the Outcast under the ring.
Oh, really?
They're all Saraya, I think, has her phone saying hey to the girls. They're all under the ring. You can hear what's going on
That's
above
hilarious.
the ring. I've never seen that perspective before. So I was like,
hilarious.
that's really cool.
I need to go find that video.
But I think for this feud build up, this was a great time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we're not overstepping with relationships in AEW, because I think that's where WWE really hurt Seth and Becky
Sure.
was every 2 seconds they had to remind you that they were dating each other. It's like, we know. We've been knowing for a while.
Right.
I think with this, the only time they've ever really other mentioned it was with Tony Schiavone and Adam Cole. And like that's fine. That makes sense because Tony Schiavone's a creepy old dude for hanging out with Britt Baker.
And they both won the Owen Hart tournament
at the same time. Yeah.
Yep.
And so I think this did a really good job of establishing Britt Baker and Adam Cole as two of the biggest baby faces in the company.
Yep. I completely agree. And then Brett's going to drop the other hat on Jamie Hayter at some point.
I think Jamie may turn.
You think Jamie's going to be the one
Jamie
turn?
may turn.
Interesting.
Because I think the fatigue on Britt Baker has finally started to fall off. Like, fans aren't as fatigued with her because she's now a babyface, and I think they want to keep that around for a while, gotcha. Especially if Adam Cole's going to stay a babyface. But could you imagine if she low blowed Adam Cole?
That's funny.
Like if they're all in the ring together, and she turned on Jamie, and Adam Cole trying to talk to her, and then just low blows, that would be great.
It is so funny. What heat?
Championships over love every day.
What heat? That would be so good. All right, man. That's gonna do it for this week's show. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Follow us on social media at PBW Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Andy is at Andy_PBWP. I am at Chris Belchar 24. Shows are each and every Friday. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you find your podcast, and of course on the BodySlam.net YouTube channel. You can find us on SportsWire Radio, and you can find our written work over on Wrestle Buddy. So go check those guys out. Speaking of Wrestle Buddy, coming out, I believe it's this coming week, in honor of the NFL and WWE draft. I participated with Albert and Jimmy over at WrestleBuddy in a fantasy draft of WWE rosters. A lot of fun, so that's going to be hitting your I think it's YouTube, I guess, your WrestleBuddy YouTube channel very, very soon. So in honor of that, Andy and I decided that next week, we're going to do our own fantasy draft in WWE in honor of that. So if you're following our PBWF shows, you know that we dig fantasy stuff and fantasy booking and all that kind of stuff. But we're going to bring a little taste of that to our regular show next week.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. I think we decided 12 picks.
Yes. The rules will be 12 picks. Andy and I will represent Raw and SmackDown. We haven't decided. It'll be fine either way.
Yeah.
And then the other person will, what the brand that you're responsible for. After your 12 picks, you will technically assume the roster of that brand, whoever didn't get drafted. We're not going to do anything with it like we did with the PBWF. But it's just going to be a cool thing to do.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing it. I love doing fantasy drafts and everything else. So
it's a lot of fun. Yeah, so go, if you dig fantasy booking and all that kind of stuff and you want more of that, PBWF is your home. Go check it out. Available wherever you find your podcast. That's where Andy and I draft current wrestlers in their current day all over the world. AEW, WWE, doesn't matter, combining, and we present you with television and pay-per-views. Our buddy Tyler Peters is our moderator for that. It's a lot of fun. Go check that out if you haven't already. All right. Anything else to add, man?
It's good to be back and, watching wrestling again, diving back deep into it. The whole week I took a break from wrestling as well.
Nice.
I kept up with it to make sure. I saw the turn on Becky, and I saw some stuff on AEW and SmackDown, but it's refreshed and I'm ready.
Nice.
Not the WrestleMania fatigue has kind of fallen off a little bit, so I'm looking forward to where we go from here.
Good stuff. All right. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We appreciate it very much. For Mr. Andy York, my name is Chris Belchar. This has been the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. We will catch you guys down the road.